Hi there YouTube, this is SJM4306 with another exciting episode of TeardownTube. This week, as you can see, I've got an old DS. And this guy I've actually mentioned in my PSP Go article that I found this at a thrift store for $5, and the only thing wrong with it is that the hinge is broken, which is actually a very common problem with DS systems because of the mechanical strain on it. So I'll be doing a teardown of this system, and I guess let's just get started here. You're going to need a single, a Phillips screwdriver as well as a tri-wing. This guy's my little tri-wing. And let me just get the right bit. Let's see. The battery door, just a single Phillips, and you can pull the battery door out. Let's see what we got here. It is a lithium-ion battery, no surprises, 3.7 volts, 850 milliamp hours, and that's pretty bog standard. I actually read an article, if you cut off the nubs of a Game Boy Advance SP battery, you could actually stick it in here and it will work. Only difference being capacity. Okay, after that you'll notice the there's a water sensor right in here. Let me get the light down. Right in here, as well as interestingly enough, some slot holes in here. Let me see if I can get the light a little bit better. There we go. Some little holes here for some surface mount potentiometers, which actually leads me to believe that there is maybe for during the manufacturing process for tweaking or tuning it or something. Basically, let's go around. There are two tri-wing screws right in here. One under the slot, the Game Boy Advance slot 2, two right in here, as well as one right here, and that's pretty much all you need to remove. Use your tri-wing screwdriver and just be careful not to over torque any of them. Stripping them will be a pain. I was surprised by how good of a deal I got on this guy. $5, I could not say no to that. I saw it, I'm like, it must be broken or dead. Turned it on, everything worked. Holy, yeah. Sometimes I find really good deals, sometimes I don't. Just the way it goes. Okay, let's see. Yep, just gonna buy a replacement case off of eBay, fix her up, and I have a friend who actually wants a DS, so this will be his Christmas present. And it would have only cost me $5 plus the cost of a replacement case. Okay, so now just lift her straight up, unless if I'm missing a screw, sorry. Also one hiding in the wrist strap loop here. Don't forget that one. So far a total of 7 screws. You just lift it straight off. Really nothing fancy in here. It didn't come with a stylus, but you can see that here's the metal shielding plate. The stylus plate is also removable right here, but other than that, not really anything interesting. So let's just set that aside. Now the Game Boy itself, you have your the card edge connector for the Game Boy games, Game Boy Advance games. Your slot 1, which is where you insert your DS games right in here. Interestingly enough, the first gen DS's use the same charging port as the Game Boy Advance SPs. However, the newer ones have their own newfangled charging port, which is much smaller. You'll notice the Wi-Fi adapter card right in here, marked 38. You'll notice the antenna, which actually goes to the top screen part. The ribbon connector for the upper screen. This guy's a ribbon connector for the lower screen. Your headphone port with the microphone pins there if you attach the accessory. The volume slider, as well as the shoulder buttons, nice and clicky. Your battery connector right in there. There's two holes that went to the surface mount pots. These are the two surface mount pots there. I actually have no idea what those actually control, but I'd advise not messing with it unless if you want to, clean up your own mess then. This guy is one of those water, what do you call them, detection little stickers that they stick on everything nowadays. Other than that, you'll see a Mitsumi branded chip right in here, made in Japan. You'll see some inductors and some caps. So I'm assuming, yeah. So let's see. Okay, I guess first off, there are 3 screws. These guys are Phillips. It appears that's all that's holding the main board down. So just get out your small Phillips. And now, let's just get all the ribbon connectors. Really hate, I just cut my fingernails. Okay, so I got this guy, the upper screen, the lower screen, and the antenna is off now. I just slide this out, and you'll notice 2 other little ribbons. One is for the backlight and the other is for the touchscreen. It's just a 4-wire touchscreen one. So there's actually little locking tabs in there, so you're going to want to pull them out slightly for each one. Here we go. And then you just carefully slide them out. And there we go. Now you should just be able to lift the main board. Let's pull out the... Oh! Ooh, sorry, I missed a single screw. There's actually one hiding right over the, right in there, right over the cart slot. And there we go. Be careful, you don't want to lose the springs for the shoulder connectors. They actually just fell out. Hopefully I didn't lose them myself. Here's one of them. And the other one, very nearly lost it. They just go into the posts on the end there. Let's put that to the side. And let's look at the main board. Other side. You'll notice a little clock crystal right in there. If you're wondering, hey, I'm not noticing where the main processor controller is in here, and it definitely is in that little guy. It's actually very interesting construction. They pulled this on the exact same thing on the newer DSs and 3DS. It's actually hidden underneath the cart slot, so you'd actually have to desolder and lift up this cart slot to see it, which obviously I don't have the tools to do right now, and I'm not going to do that. So let's flip her over. Nice surface mount tack switches. Gives you the clickety feel. None of that mushy nonsense. Actually, they do use rubber membranes over it, so you kind of get best of both worlds. You'll notice a little chip right in here, which I assume would be... Let's see. You can actually see Nintendo, a lot of their devices, they actually go through and they'll mark all the test points, which is very interesting. So that makes it very easy to modify stuff. Like on this charging port, you can see it's marked V in, switch, V ground. It's actually really helpful. And one reason that you can tell that the processor is on the other side here, all the decoupling caps for the VGA chip just all arranged in this nice little square, and it's marked with an A. How nice of them. You'll notice a little chip right in here, which is a microchip branded. That's the microchip M there. And other than that, very sparse on this side. You'll notice the microphone, the electric microphone right in there. Other than that, very interesting construction. You'll notice large traces going out through here. Basically, those are the battery traces, and they're even nice enough to mark off the battery traces. So if you wanted to add LEDs or something, you just solder in there. There's BT plus and BT minus, and even you know, they marked everything, which is really cool. So, but that's pretty much it for the main board. Let's see what else we got. Okay, so for this portion, you can very carefully, let's see, let's just pull this little guy out. This guy's a ribbon cable for the top. You should be able to, yep, just pull the bottom screen entirely out. You'll notice the digitizer, or the resistive, touch panel, which is actually connected to this guy right in here. You'll notice that it's basically just, stuck with some adhesive over the LCD itself, which the cable for that is here, and this guy's the backlit for the LCD. Other than that, pretty much your run-of-the-mill. I think, what is it, 3 inches? Looks about 3 inches to me. And let's see, for your buttons, just your run-of-the-mill plastic and then rubber membrane inside there. Nothing all that exciting. And for your A, Y, B, X buttons and start select, same thing. Okay, so this took me a little while to figure out how the heck to do this. If you want to remove the upper screen and look inside, there's actually a tiny little screw right in here. You can see a little silver thing. You're going to need to remove that. And once you do, the top part actually pops out. Make sure you do not lose that screw, because that'll be a pain. Okay. And now, assuming the hinges weren't broken, you could actually now start, let's see, start pulling it out. You would have to actually slide out these little guys, but since mine's broken anyway, not necessary. And you want to feed the cord through there very carefully without tearing anything. And there we go. We're good to go. Set that aside. Now we have our top part. This was a pain. I'm going to need a pocket knife to actually... Nintendo does this all the time on their portables. They try to hide screws by putting it behind little rubber pads. Just 4 of them. So very carefully, without cutting yourself, you can either use a tiny screwdriver or a pocket knife. There's some adhesive holding them down. Just lift them. So be very careful not to cut yourself. And the 2 ones down here were actually really a pain. So be super careful. Okay. And now we can proceed to remove each of the 4 screws. And the fun part, there are various little clasps around the edges. So you want to get your pry tool in there and unclip them. I normally would use my fingernails at this point, but I just cut them. So pry tool works wonders as well. There, and that looks like got all around the top. There we go. Nothing really to see on the back, the top part. Oh well. Here's where all the magic is. The upper LCD screen, the two speakers, as well as there's a little daughter board with various connectors for the LCD, and it passes it through this cable right here, as well as this guy, which sorry for the lighting, it's not particularly the best. This guy is the antenna. Just be very careful, there's some really thin wires going from this board to this board here. So as I said, this guy connects to the little Wi-Fi antenna. It's the antenna trace. And it's interesting because you can see the M logo right in there. You'll notice the contact points for the speaker, which are just kind of mechanically, from the pressure of the plates, it's mechanically held in place. And finally, you'll see the little daughter board with the ZIF connectors right in there. There's no point in taking those out, so I'm just going to leave them there. Okay. So let's just get this guy back in. There's really no point in taking out the LCD either from the top. Not until I'm going to actually go and change the casing. Oh, sorry about that. So let's just get this back on there. One interesting thing though is they actually put a little tiny, you see that little, it's like little circuit board, just has like a little spacer just to get the LCD up just a little bit, which I found really odd, and it has a little cutout for the cable to protrude through as well, which I found that really weird. Never seen anything like that, but anyway, let's just get this on and we'll be all good. Make sure the cables are in place, and you just snap it together. It goes right back together. Really easy peasy lemon squeezy. Put the screws back in. I remember when the DS first came out, thought it was kind of odd they chose to have two screens for a device, but it harkens back to the original handheld gaming systems that Nintendo was coming out with, like in the late 80s, early 90s, where one of the models that they had was a dual screen one. They were just your run-of-the-mill. They weren't like LCD. Well, they were LCDs, but they were the fixed segment ones. They couldn't display like pixels per se. But it's really interesting how things have changed since then. So let's just get these little guys in. Go squares. Okay. Now the fun part, trying to get this back in there. Okay. I guess feed the antenna through first. Maybe. This goes like... Actually, let's see. Okay. Then you want to feed in the display cable. It's going to take a little bit of acrobatics. Oh, okay, there we go. Be very, very, very careful. Not to rip anything, otherwise your DS isn't going to go back together quite right and work again. Okay. And it's interesting how the ribbon cable is actually twirled around for stress relief so that when it rotates it doesn't flex too much. Which is, you know, it's a very interesting way of going about strain relief for a display that rotates. So now let's get this one screw back in, if I can get it back in, you know. Okay, tweezers might help, because it's really sunk far in there and it's really a pain. So just use a little pair of tweezers and hopefully that works. If not, I'm just gonna go insane. Okay, there we go. Okay, and it's in there. Okay, now we can start reassembling. Lower LCD goes in with the cable going towards the right, and you can lift up the little piece of the foam there. Just want to sit the cable right in there, lay the foam over it. The antenna cord just kind of snakes around the screw hole there. Just kind of want to set it out of the way a little bit. Okay. Oh, one interesting thing to note. These are actually the LEDs that peek through. There's a little light pipe right in there. The red and the green one, they use two separate ones for, that's the battery indicator, and then an orange one for charge indication. And this one, the original DS, when your Wi-Fi is on, it just flashes green, like it on, off, on, off. The newer ones actually don't. I have a DS Lite as well. I don't actually remember what it does there, but it's just arranged slightly differently. They moved those indicator LEDs to the shoulder on the DS Lites, which I actually prefer. That looks kind of cooler, I think. But anyway, let's just get this back together. You want to make sure all the cables are kind of out of the way, and snake the cables, the little ZIF connector or ZIF cords, through the cutout, the milled out area in the PCB, and then you want to slide them in very carefully. And once they're in, you can use a little tweezer or something and slide the locking bar in. And slide in the LCD cable for the bottom. Make sure the tab is flipped up and slide in the LCD cable for the top now. Plug in your Wi-Fi antenna. There we go. And at this point, you want to carefully insert the trigger buttons. Sit carefully. There. Nice clickety-clackety sound. Now, put all the 4 screws that hold the motherboard down. And there's a little hint. I opened this the first time. I'll get to it as soon as I'm done this, because I put it all back together and it wouldn't display anything on the upper screen. It would light up, but you know, it just display white. I thought I broke it, but it was actually I didn't seat this one connector in properly. So before screwing the entire thing together, you can just place this on top. Just put the battery in as if it were, you know, all put back together, and then test it out while holding the battery in place. And if an image comes on both screens, then you're good. There you go. Okay, so at least I know that works then. So now, go around and insert a screw in every hole. Work your way around. There's 7 of them, I believe. I've seen a cool hack where someone actually took the, I believe the top screen was broken or something, and so they took the entire bottom, they just cut off the top part of the DS, sanded it down, and you know, and made it nice and flat. And so then they covered the slot 1, so basically they turned it into a Game Boy Advance, and its only purpose was to play Game Boy Advance games, which I thought was kind of cool, albeit a little bit, you know, I guess wasteful in a way or something, because you're only using half the hardware. But if your upper screen's busted, then I don't see a problem in that. Don't lose a screw. For some reason, I really hate tri-wing screws because they tend to strip very easily. They're not, you know, it's just, they're a pain. I don't, there, okay. It's a little bit hard getting the one inside this, the wrist strap hole back seated and whatnot. But anyway, if you can see, might help if I inserted the battery. Adore. Final screw. Everything's back together. As you can see, it all works. And so, let's see here. I'm going to use a screwdriver. But my fingernails are too short. Okay, I'll use a D-pad. So SJM4306 and confirm. One weird thing about there, so you can see the screen. The actually backlight brightness is not as bright as the DS Lite, kind of obviously. Let's see. Favorite colors either blue or green. You know what? I'm gonna go with blue today. Here we go. Date, I don't really care. Fine, it's January 1st, 2000, whatever. Hour, whatever, it's 00. And my birthday, it's today, why not? Just so that it says happy birthday. And it says it has to shut down. Turns right on, you'll notice the light pipes right there, right in there. And it all works. You can actually turn off the backlight on this guy, interestingly enough. Other than that, it all works. I just had to fix this little hinge here. And what's funny is, I don't know how long this was sitting on that shelf, but it has a full charge, so I don't know if this battery was just sitting there for a long time or whatnot, but yeah, let's just shut that off. And that's the little DS that I got for $5. Like, it doesn't get much better than that. I highly advise going to local thrift stores. it's the best way to get cheap electronics that, you know, especially if you like taking stuff apart and getting stuff just for the parts or the experience of like modifying or hacking things. There's no better place to go than to a thrift store. You know, and it likely, like, a lot of people throw out electronics that are perfectly good. This guy only needs a replacement case for it. It's fully functional. Otherwise, it's a shame to see, you know, this possibly being thrown out just for a silly reason like that. So, you know, I advise everyone just go out and instead of throwing stuff away, or if you see someone throwing something away, then, you know, you can give it a new home. You can fix it up. There's someone who always, you know, my friend wanted a DS and he didn't want to pay like $100 and something for one. So yeah, it'll only cost me about like, you know, $20 now with the replacement case and $5 for this guy. So that's pretty much the end of the video for today. If you guys, you know, enjoyed it, like, subscribe, comment. Everything helps, you know. I'm gonna try keeping, you know, it's the end of the semester, so I'm a little bit busy. I have finals coming up, but I'm gonna try, you know, to upload videos and whatnot. If not, then expect one sometime, maybe around Christmas, maybe a little after or something. Maybe if I get some electronics for Christmas, I can tear them down and, you know. First thing I do whenever I get something electronic is I open it up, so no surprises there. So, I'll see you guys later. Take it easy, and, you know, definitely.